All right, our next speaker, 26 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, 10 deployments, 3 combat tours, stationed in the Bay Area 3 different times, was in the service from 1988 to 2014. He was the first guy that jumped up when they started the Marine Corps song. So, once a Marine, always a Marine. It's my great pleasure to introduce Colonel retired Chris Starling. Colonel.
We call that a hymn, not just a song. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is really my privilege to be here, and I'm going to be quick. I have 3 vignettes to share with you, each inspired by my Spotify playlist. Now, some of you don't know what that is, but the Lincoln High School kids do. But those of you who don't know what that is, you'll know what the songs are. And you from Lincoln High School probably won't know what the songs are, but that's okay. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you the name of a musician or a band, and I'm going to tell you when the song was released. And then I'm going to tell you a little story. And while I'm telling it to you, see if you can figure out what the name of that song is. The artist that inspired my first vignette is Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. And the year that that song was released was 1969. You know, my most amazing Memorial Day ceremony was not in the United States. It was at a cemetery overseas. It was in the small town of Belleau Wood, Château-Thierry, France. Some of you are familiar with the battle that occurred there, the Battle of Belleau Wood. It was a turning point in World War I. The German army had reached a point 60 miles from Paris. The U.S. Marines were sent into the fight, outnumbered 2-1, but their mission was to stop the German advance. The ensuing battle lasted for 3 weeks. It was close combat, a dense forest, mustard gas, hand grenades, hand-to-hand combat. Out of 10,000 Marines committed to that battle, 7,000 were wounded, and 1,811 were killed in action. Many of them were laid to rest at the American Cemetery at Château-Thierry. 92 years later, after that battle, I stood at that cemetery in my dress blue uniform with my family. The first thing we noticed, there were more French people at an American Memorial Day service than there were Americans. Well, that makes sense. It was France. But there was another thing that was really important and memorable, and that was that the local school children of Château-Thierry were decorating every single grave with an American flag and a French flag, one by one. Those Marines who gave their lives at Belleau Wood are remembered and honored in a tradition that spans decades. And so the Crosby, Stills, and Young and Nash song that reminds me of this is Teach Your Children Well. The lesson I took away was to pay it forward, like those French families. And we have a French officer here today as part of our ceremony. For my second vignette, the artist is a woman named Gloria Gaynor, and this song was released in 1978. And some of you won't believe that this is on my Spotify playlist, but it is. This morning I went and spent some time with a Union spy. She's buried right up here at Officer's Circle. Pauline Cushman grew up with 7 brothers in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she learned as a child how to ride horses, shoot shotguns, and canoe through rapids. At the height of the Civil War, she found herself in Louisville, Kentucky, a hotbed of dissent. For those of you who know your Civil War history, confrontations between Unionists and Confederate sympathizers often turned violent in Kentucky. It was that kind of place. And in that chaotic environment, she was in the theater. Some Union officers attended the theater, and they saw how convincing she was. And they pulled her aside and asked her if she would be a spy for the Union. She agreed. She snuck behind enemy lines. She collected vital intelligence. She would come back with diagrams of fortifications. But one day near Nashville, Tennessee, her luck ran out. She was captured and taken before the Confederate commander, General Braxton Bragg, who found her guilty of spying and sentenced her to death by hanging. Unfortunately for Pauline Cushman, before her sentence could be commuted, the Union Army seized Shelbyville, Tennessee, where her prison was, and she was liberated. So instead of a date with the hangman, she was recognized by President Abraham Lincoln for her bravery and awarded the brevet rank of major. In 1890, she came here to San Francisco, and 3 years later, her health declined. So 130 years ago this year, at the age of 60, she died here in San Francisco. When the Grand Army of the Republic, I like that name, we don't call it that anymore, but that's what it was back then. When the Grand Army of the Republic learned about this, they pulled out all the stops, and she had an enormous funeral procession here, and she was buried at the Presidio with full military honors. And the song that reminds me of Pauline Cushman by Gloria Gaynor is "I Will Survive," because she did. That is a song about resilience and perseverance. And while her story is truly extraordinary, it's only one of thousands from 160 years ago to today. This is a hallowed place. Every one of these headstones has stories, and it is up to us to remember them and keep them. Every name here should be spoken out loud on a day like this. The third vignette, the artist is Sheryl Crow, and the year is 2009. And as a young lieutenant of Marines, we were getting ready to go off on our long weekend, and I wished someone a happy Memorial Day. And my battalion chaplain overheard me in the parking lot and said, "Hey, Lieutenant, come here." And that chaplain gave me some counseling. He said, "Hey, Happy Memorial Day is really not the best choice of words." And he got me to thinking about it. It's okay to enjoy a long weekend and to be with family and friends, and there is nothing wrong with a great cookout. But as my old boss used to tell me, Chris, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And on Memorial Day, the main thing ain't the barbecue. The main thing is reflection, it's gratitude, and it is remembering those who gave their lives. So as you wish someone well on Memorial Day, try something besides happy. And the song from Sheryl Crow is called "If It Makes You Happy." And the lyric is, "If it makes you happy, why am I so sad?" It's an emotional time. The lesson here is to keep our priorities straight on Memorial Day, but also to have fun. And with that, I will wish you all a very blessed Memorial Day.